Good morning. This is review for your functions test. These are questions like the ones that will be on the actual test. You'll have several questions where I will ask, is the following equation a function? I will give you the equation. If you go to Desmos and type it in, you've got a picture of what this one looks like. And what you can do is you can use your vertical line test. For a vertical line, if it ever crosses your graph in more than one place, then no, this one is not a function. If it only crosses at one place, then it is a function. Let's look at another example. Is the following equation a function? Yes or no? I graphed it in Desmos. I look using my vertical line test. It only crosses my graph in one place. When I move it across it, so it passes the vertical line test. So yes, this is a function. If you're given ordered pairs, remember your x values can never repeat. If your x values repeat, then it's not a function. Next types of questions that you'll have on there is to find the domain and range of a graph. Sometimes I'll give you a picture of the graph already. Other times I'll give you the equation. If I don't give you a picture, then type the equation into Desmos. When we look at this one and we talk about the domain is how the graph moves left and right for x. So for this one, it starts here and it moves to the right. So my domain is going to be x is greater than or equal to 0. For my range is how my graph moves up and down for y. Well, this continues to move down and to the right, up and to the right. So if it's continuing to move both up and down, my range is going to be all real numbers. For the next one, domain and range. Well, I have closed circles on both ends. So when I look from left to right, it goes from -5 to +4 for my domain. So the way that I write that is my farthest point to the left is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 4. Notice I have the line underneath it because these are closed circles. If these happen to be open circles, then my inequality would look like this. Okay? But they are closed, so I don't need the second one. All right? When I look for my range is how my graph is moving up and down. So I look for my lowest point. So this looks like that's probably going to be about a -7. My highest point looks like it's going to be about right here. And that looks like that is going to be at -3. So we go from the smallest number. So from -7 less than or equal to y less than or equal to -3. Domain is x, range is y. If we look at increasing and decreasing intervals, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight parts of it. So from as far left as we can start until we get to this point, we are increasing. Once we get to that point, then we are decreasing. We are going down. Then when we get to this point here, we're moving back up. So we've got several specific points that we need to identify. So this point here is -2, 3.5. This point here looks like it's at 3 and -2.8, we'll call it. Okay? So the increasing intervals are in yellow. So I'm increasing from as far left as I can start until I get to this x value. Just remember, we don't care about the y values, right? Until I get to -2. And then I stop increasing. Then my decreasing part is the green, so I'm going to start at 2, and I'm going to decrease until I get down here to 3. Again, we don't care about the y value. Okay? Once I get to 3, then I'm also going to start turning and going back up until as far right as I can go, which is positive infinity. For this one, again, let's identify some key points. Here's a turning point here. We would call this a relative maximum, and that's going to be at -1, 6. This we would call a relative minimum, and that I'm going to call it 1.5, -1. Again, remember, we don't really care about the y values. When we talk about increasing and decreasing intervals, we're only talking about the x values, how it moves left and right. So my increasing part is from as far left as I can start until I get to -1. Then it decreases from -1 to +1.5, and then it turns and increases again. So if we write those increasing and decreasing intervals, as far left as I can start is going to be -infinity, which is less than x, which is less than or equal to -1. Once I get to -1, then I'm decreasing. So I'm going to go down here, and -1 less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to +1.5. When I get to +1.5, I'm turning around and going back up again. And then I'm going to continue moving up as far right as I can go. The end behavior. Whenever you see the two words, end behavior, I want you to circle the left end of your graph and label it, and the right end of your graph and label it. Okay? So, this, as x approaches -infinity, that is the left side of your graph. What is your graph pointing towards for y? It's pointing down, so we call that -infinity. When we look at the right side of the graph, that's as x approaches +infinity, what is the end of your graph pointing towards? Well, it's pointing up, and we call that +infinity. We look at another graph, looking at the end behavior. Again, circle the left end and label it, and circle the right end and label it. The left end is pointing downward, so that's -infinity. The right end is pointing up, so that's +infinity. Let's look at another part of this. I can't have an absolute maximum because my graph continues to move up. So that would be none. If I'm looking for a relative maximum, I have a maximum here at -5, 0. I have another maximum here at, and I'll call that -1, 4. And I have another maximum here at 3.5, 2.5. Okay? When I'm talking about absolute minimum, I can't have an absolute minimum because my graph continues to move down. I can have a relative minimum, and those are at the point here of -3.5, -5, 1, 0, and 6, 0. So I can have several relative mins and relative max. If I'm doing composite functions, remember we work backwards. So I'm plugging the 4 into my g equation everywhere I have an x. So if I put a 4 in here, 4 plus 6 gives me 10. Now I take that 10 and I plug it into my f equation. So I'm going to find f of 10, and that's going to be 10 squared, which is 100. For this one, I'm going to plug 0 in for g. So I write my equation down. Everywhere I have an x, I'm going to put a parentheses. In that parentheses, I'm going to put a 0. Well, 0 squared is still 0, and 4 times 0 is 0. Now I take that 0 that I got from this, and I plug it into my f equation. Everywhere I have an x, I'm going to put a parentheses, and in that parentheses, I'm going to put 0, and for my final answer, I get 0. If I'm plugging in actual equations, I don't have a number to plug in. This just tells me I'm going to plug the g equation into the f equation. So I write my g equation, I write my F equation, and I'm plugging G into it, right? Everywhere in my F equation that I have an X, I'm going to put a parentheses, plus 1. Into that parentheses, I plug in my G equation. So I have x squared plus 5x. There are no like terms that I can combine here, so this is my final answer. Just don't forget your 1. Here, I'm plugging again my G into my F. So I write my F equation. Everywhere I have an X, I'm going to put a parentheses, and then I plug in my G equation, x plus 5. Well, remember we did several like these in class. This means that I have this parentheses written twice. So we can use our FOIL method. First, outer, inner, and last. I combine my like terms, and I get x squared plus 10x plus 25. I could use my my box method instead of my FOIL method. I will still come up with the same answer. X times x is x squared, 5x here. X times 5 is 5x, 5 times 5 is 25. And I get the same thing that I got when I use my FOIL method. Looking for my relative maximum and minimums, we actually did this just a minute ago. This would be a max. This would be a minimum. This would be a max. And we listed those out just a minute ago. This would be a relative minimum. If you don't remember it, go back in the video. You can see it. Another relative max. And a relative minimum. Now, remember we said we don't have any absolute maximums because our graph continues to move up, and we don't have any absolute minimums because our graph continues to move down. For this one, this is like the graph that we had in class. Continues to move up, so there are no maximums, right? The lowest point on our graph is here. So that would be my absolute minimum. My relative minimum would be here. And my relative maximum would be here. And the coordinating points are below it, right here. Same thing we did in class. Okay? It has no absolute maximum because it continues to move up. It has a relative maximum here at 0, 0, and both of these are the absolute minimums because they're the same point, lowest point. So it has two absolute minimums here and here. This one, again, no absolute maximum because it continues up. The absolute minimum is here. We have a relative minimum here. And we have a relative maximum here. Okay? Looking at intercepts from this graph, where it crosses my x-axis, here, 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 and here. So I have one at -5, -2, 1, and 6. Y-intercepts, it only crosses it one time, and I'm going to call that at 2.5.